So welcome back, clean up the board for you. So we'll carry on. So as you understood, the basics of a business was creating a product, selling it. It's as simple as that. How do you create a product? How do you create a product which is important enough for someone to think they should buy it? That's the second problem, which brings us to what is the kind of market availability, right? That's the first thing. Now, you have to go through a two-step process for this before you start anything. One is you have to identify, and second is you have to evaluate. Whatever you identify may not actually, after evaluation, look very good to do. I mean, you may think of, I will make, you have an idea that I make a transparent glove, and people would wear it because it's something cool, it will look like there's the part. But then when you go into the transparent materials and all, which is when you're evaluating it, you may find out that that will actually not keep it warm. It may at most keep the rain out. So then you will say transparent biking glove. So you keep on evaluating and identifying different aspects, and then you come to it. So there are many methods to identify a business, but what I'm trying to say is that first, identifying the market potential or the market for the product is the first step of starting the business. Identify you can do in several ways. First of all, you can do surveys, which we'll call research. Now, this could be secondary or this could be primary. So, primary research is you have some money, of course, or you have a lot of time, and you go on meeting people and talking to them about an idea you have and saying directly or indirectly, do you want it? And then depend on what response you're getting from the market, you decide whether it's actually a need or not a need. That's a primary. Secondary is someone has, let's say you see a news report that so many students can't speak English, and you say, oh my God, that means making a training center for teaching people how to speak English is good. But still you have to probably go and do some primary to find out that how much are they willing to pay for, can we teach at that cost, etc. So each of these aspects are the market evaluation part of it. Let's call it the full part of it. Both of these aspects have to be gone through. You have to make sure that you look at that part. Now, evaluating is quite a tricky step, because you have to make sure that you are evaluating the right principles that needs you to get some groundwork done about the costs. And remember, there are many hidden costs. You cannot forget to, for example, again, think of how much power it will do. You cannot forget the amount of money you would need to buy a new laptop to start a business. You should be aware of all the elements needed to run the business, and that will tell you what is the cost, and it will also give you an example of on that part. Now, one of the biggest challenges in evaluation is no business suddenly jumps up and reaches the maximum sales. There is a rhythm and there is a flow in which this thing picks up and goes to whatever is the capacity that you had planned for. So most people actually make a business evaluation mistake in thinking that I'll reach these sales in so and so short time, and that often doesn't work out. So when you're evaluating, you have to evaluate the time it will take for your market to catch on, the time it will take. So all these are parts of evaluation. So once you have done the business market evaluation, identifying it and evaluating whether the business is proper or not, then you actually look at the evaluation part. Let's take some simple cases of how it is evaluated. We already had home delivery in some cities, but not all cities had it. Let's say when a Swiggy or a Zomato or any of these people first came in, they felt it as a own user. So their identification was through a problem. So that's also absolutely fine. These are the classic methods. Doesn't mean that it is doing. So people who are intent on starting a startup, they go this way. Many entrepreneurs, and the most successful ones in my mind, they come from the other way around. They intuitively get exposed or perceive a problem, they see the opportunity in it, and then they do it. So somewhere through observation, leading to a problem, that also is a big way of finding a problem. So keep yourself abreast that if you're observant, we talked about it a bit in some of the previous ones. So observation to problem is often the most salient ones. Then you build, you still have to evaluate, by the way, no matter how you identify the problem. The third could be that you meet a lot of industry people, you meet people, these are different types of entrepreneurships, and you ask them, what in your supply chain is the biggest problem? So suppose you talk to a steel plant, they will say, this sustainability thing is there, and I am not getting a supply for net green fuel. I'm still reliant on coal, and I have a target by 2030. I don't know how to do it. You actually get an idea of the evaluation right there, because this guy has a fixed capacity that he is already looking for. So sometimes when you go to these sort of other sets of problems, apart from the ones that you are exposed to as a consumer, and you go into our businesses and all. So people who come from different business families, people who come from an exposure to their parents or someone in the family working in this sort of industries, they often have a knack for spotting these gaps. And it could be a very simple thing. It could be one material being exported from some country and supplied, but with a quality check. It could be as simple as that, and could have huge amount of market. These are under the radar. You don't read about these businesses much. But weirdly, these are extremely efficient, small, frugal, often doesn't need too much capital, and is often very successful. When you talk around in your society and all, you'll see this, many of your friends or many of your peers or stuff who are shy, they don't want to talk much about what they are doing because it's not very glamorous or glorious, but actually they are doing some of these, and maybe, quite possibly, they are earning a ton of money and making sure they are getting a great life. So, and also making sure they are doing an important work. Someone who is helping the steel industry grow actually is helping the country grow. So never undermine any business, and you have to find your purpose. But at the same time, make sure that it resonates with what you want to do in life, what you want to be known in life. Because if you look at it just as an opportunity, you will lose the steam, you will lose the enthusiasm, and you know what that leads to? You will lose the will to innovate. And without innovation, continuous innovation, no business can survive. So unless you are passionate about the subject, unless you feel that this is it, this is for me, you can dabble with an opportunity. You can use it to fund your future startup. Anything is fine, there are no rules in it. But remember, if you're in it for the long haul, try to match your passion to what you are doing, and that's very critical. So a classic example of another set of evaluation. So if it's existing, it's easier. But how do you imagine a product which doesn't exist today? Part of it will come from observing the problem. I mean, delivery system didn't exist in the format. So I would say that was still a transformation, because some shops were delivering through a Chotu or through a Mundu, whatever you call, depending on the part of the India. It was prevalent. Some people would deliver. If it was a very costly shopping, they would have one of their employees go and park it. So the essence of it was there. Making it democratized, making it affordable, making it part of your life. I guess the innovation was there. But how do you sort of create a new market? Let's take a case of some of this, alternate meat companies. I mean, alternate meat, who thought about that? But people realized people like the taste of meat, but they have taken lifestyle calls to not have meat, to go for a vegan diet or whatever, and they're looking for meat substitutes. It's a building part, or it's a natural logical conclusion. They jumped right in. They tried to find out, are there any things? Oh, there's this recipe in old Bengali households where they take the jackfruit and call it gachpatha and cook it like they would cook meat. Can we take that sort of a material and create artificial meat? Aspiration. Then they will talk to chemical scientists and chemical engineers, food product parts of it, all sorts of body. They'll find that out, and they will come to a product and do it. This is a classic example of a product discovery. So remember, there are all sets of product, but broadly, there are products where you are increasing the efficiency of an existing system. There are kind of innovations which are the extensions of the existing systems, and there are future products. You don't need to be good at everything. You have to focus and see where is your call coming. That's why I said a lot of this entrepreneurial study is more about self-discovery and finding out where can you add the maximum value for which people are willing to pay. It's a sweet point. You may think that you can become a great singer and that's your passion, but you may be a horrible singer and people don't want to listen to you. You can't make money that way, so you restrict that to your bathroom. So similarly, in entrepreneurial skill, you may be wanting to do a lot of things, you may be great at some things, you may be great at some things which people are willing to pay for. That intersection of what are people willing to pay for and what am I good at, the set of things, that should be your target as to where to set up the successful business. The key is that opportunities will come. So you have to understand what makes you happy. Is it about seeing people smile? Is it about seeing people feeling wow or admiring you? Is it about not being perceived at all and still knowing that you have contributed to them? But somewhere, as you can see, I am talking and talking, but the key part that comes in, you are solving a problem for people. It could be an enterprise, it could be a thing, but finally the beneficiary is society. So remember that unless you are improving the efficiency of society in whatever way, by innovation or by making it more efficient simply by engineering and all, you are actually not going to make money. Why would anyone make money? Call back or think back on the first lesson where we briefly touched on the concept of money. It's compressed time. Unless you are saving time for someone, unless you are giving him a better quality of service in lesser time, people will not shell out their money because they have earned it the hard way. Why should they give money to you earned the hard way onto that? But you are not a beggar. That's not an industry. It is an industry quite large, but that's not the idea of an entrepreneurship. By the way, beggar is also an entrepreneur. He finds out new pitches. He's a marketing entrepreneur. That's how I look at it. Now, the key element when you're evaluating and when you're identifying, I call it that when you're identifying, be very optimistic. Okay? And when you're evaluating, be very pessimistic. Kind of a maker-checker. One of the big risks we run as an entrepreneur is our idea is the most brilliant one. I should get not one but 10 Nobel Prizes for it. But unless you are evaluating and being very, very sensible about yourself and very altruistic, you will not do it. Guys who can do it, remember we talked about being critical, self-critical, this is the method for it. Identify, evaluate. And the more you evaluate, the better your eyes of identifying will increase. It's a role, it's a practice. And this is where, especially in evaluation and identification, a lot of this will happen. Now remember, identifying can also happen through brainstorming. You can just sit with a lot of people, you can sit with your target audience that you want to. Suppose you have gone the other way around. I want to do for something for housewives. Could be. They're a large market. I don't know if there are specialized products. You can come that way also. There are no one way or sure way. We are just documenting what has happened. One of my favorite professors when we were studying management had told that they taught us a lot of theories, this theory, that theory, and then he asked on the last day, do you know why we taught you that? So we said, because we can become better human beings. Yeah, that's true. Seed of ideas and all, you will know the history. It's like you don't make the same mistakes. But remember, the main thing we taught you for is no one will ask you if you succeed, what theory led it to your success. But if you fail, then you can back up. So I look at theory always as something that to defend myself when I have failed. If I succeed, nothing succeeds like success. So focus on that, not on the theory is what I'll say. But know all the ways. So just again, coming back to what we were talking. So you have targeted the audience because you think that's an unfulfilled part of the market. That's an intuitive thing, not exactly. You identified a market segment which is unserved, not exactly a problem. Then you may talk to a lot of things like we said, survey, research, that what is the problem? You can do one by one, or you may just sit around with a lot of people who feel that, yeah, that's a good market, or some people or friends you trust who you are saying, and say, kya kar sakta hai? That's also a way of starting. So there is no one way of starting, but this process is important. Please identify, and after identifying, please evaluate. Do not just skip and do it on hope or things. Sometimes you may need to do that, karke dekhte hai, but take it on what you can chew. Don't bite more than what you can chew. And remember one thing, maybe you are a bright guy, maybe you can raise money, maybe you have very trusting parents and family and all, but any money you take, it is social debt. And if you cannot return it, if you cannot give back the returns, people will like you, but they lose faith in the fact of giving you money the second time. So when you are taking money, make sure that you are doing it for the right reason and you yourself are convinced that किसी को टोपी नहीं पहना रहा हो, I'm taking it because I can really make the business grow and make them rich. Make them rich is very important whenever you are wanting to make money. I impressed him to give me money, maybe not so good. Maybe works. You may impress someone to get money and figure out everything works. But typically, personally, and that again, personality comes in a lot. How you determine where you are confident and when you should look at and what business should be done is there. Remember, bottom line matters finally. So any business you do should not be a hoodwinking job or dekh lenge aage jaake profit kaise banega. You should have a path to profit as part of your plan. And this is my thing. You go out on the internet, you look at other things, there are many other people propagating exactly the same or telling you how to manage that. But while we are on this course and all, we'll do it. If you think otherwise, come and debate with me. I would love to do that. That's the whole way we learn. Now, broadly, this is what it matters in the market evaluation part. We'll get into the next sections in that. But I'm trying to keep it short, brief, and within the attention span I have been told, which is your generational part. Nothing more than 7 minutes. Better to make it less than 3 minutes. So I'll try to punch in my main lessons in 3-minute packets and not keep something boring more than 7 months. I'll clean the board again. See you after the cleaning of the board.